We'll move on to the item, and we'll have roll call first. What does that do? Let's see if we're here.
Councilmember Rouse.
Here.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Here.
Councilmember Murillo.
Here.
Okay, very good. And would you read the item, please?
Proposal to amend Section 17.20.005 of the Santa Barbara Municipal Code, slip assignment policy. Recommendation that the Ordinance Committee forward to Council for introduction an ordinance of the Council of the City of Santa Barbara amending Santa Barbara Municipal Code Section 17.20.005 slip assignment policy by extending the time allowed for a slip permittee to replace a vessel that is donated, stolen, destroyed, or otherwise permanently removed from the slip from 120 days to 180 days, and eliminating the lottery list assignment fee for slips assigned from the Waterfront Department's lottery waiting list.
Okay, thank you. And I am going to step aside as I am a slip holder. So, Mr. Hotchkiss, if you would take over, please.
Okay. Mr. Crumman, you have a show for us, is that right?
I don't know about a show, but I do have a report.
Great.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the Ordinance Committee. So the Waterfront Department staff annually reviews Title 17 of the Municipal Code to ensure that we have the appropriate legal framework to provide and maintain the programs and policies we administer at the waterfront. It's something we've been doing for many years. Code maintenance, if you want to call it. Some years are mop-up, some years are more substantive. This one's kind of in between, but we have two items to bring to you this afternoon, both of them as part of Section 17.20.005, the slip assignment policy. The first is quite straightforward. This section currently requires a slip permittee who sells, donates their boat, has it destroyed, if it gets destroyed in a storm or what have you, 120 days to replace that vessel. That code section is really in place for two reasons. Number one, to maintain Santa Barbara Harbor as a working harbor, one of the primary facets of which is recreational boating. And the second, oftentimes not unrelated, is so that people don't just sit on water space for investment in a slip, that people are using Santa Barbara Harbor for recreational boating and commercial fishing. That being said, we in talking with boaters and yacht brokers over the last year, we sort of learned, if you will, that once an individual is complete, it takes about 30 days just to complete the sale of a boat. Multiple parties involved, paperwork involved, us involved, and what have you. And so that really truncates the time left to them to put another vessel on the slip to 90 days. So if you're shopping anywhere from Ventura Harbor to Australia for a new boat, right, that really makes it difficult, number one, that short time frame. And secondly, it tends to unintentionally encourage people putting in a replacement boat on which they're 1% owner just to buy themselves more time. And consequentially, that often leads to a sub-rent, where somebody actually, your replacement boat, where you're maybe 1% owner and your renter, if you will, your sub-renter is a 99% owner, often gives way to a situation where the sub-renter is paying the rent and then some, and now we're in an illegal situation per the municipal code and the marina rules and regulations. So wanting to encourage the boating out of Santa Barbara, discourage people sitting on slips for investment purposes, and discourage people from using their slips for filler boats or sub-rentals, we are recommending to you today that you support the notion of extending this 120-day limit to 180 days. Besides all of what I just mentioned, we'll also give the Waterfront Department an extra 60 days to utilize that slip for transient boaters, for visiting boaters. So it's got a lot of win-win to it, and like I say, this is supported broadly by the boaters and the yacht brokers as well. The other half of our recommendation today involves the lottery list assignment fees. So this actually goes back as far as the 1970s when the Waterfront Department initially developed its waiting list, which later became known as the master waiting list for slip permits in Santa Barbara Harbor. Slip permits are usually offered when a sole slip permittee passes away, A slip permit is terminated for lack of payment. Seldomly, but sometimes a slip permit is terminated for bad behavior, if you want, criminal behavior. And rarely, but it does happen, sometimes people are just overboating and the slip permit, they give it back to the city and it reverts to the city for assignment. To the waiting list. So for many years, this waiting list worked fine, but unfortunately in the late 1990s, so many people had signed up that finally the waterfront department, the waterfront director with council support elected to close the list. And that list in particular, we call it now the master waiting list, is designed so that a person signed up, because it's all past tense now, signed up in a specific slip size category. I want to sign up for the 25-foot list. I want to sign up for the 43-foot list, and there are a whole bunch of them, maybe 10 different slip size categories. And and so over the years, the waterfront department, when slips reverted to the city for termination or just slips coming back to us, would assign slips via that category. For example, somebody was terminated for non-payment in a 35-foot slip. We would go to the list, take the first person. They're ranked by date of application in the 35-foot column, if you will, and we would make that assignment. Well, over the years, what happened was we began to exhaust or deplete, if you will, some of those columns. That's good news, actually. So the waiting list, when I came here 16 plus years ago, there were 80-something people on it. There are only 25 now. So it's been working. We've been working our way through it. But in 2008, City Council, with staff recommendation and Harbor Commission support, agreed to develop a couple of subordinate lists because ultimately we saw where this was going, where we wouldn't have really a mechanism for assigning slips that were from depleted categories anymore. So the first subordinate category is called the submaster list. And what the submaster list is, all the same people on the master list who signed up in different categories collapsed into one column and listed chronologically. So if you were waiting for a 40-foot slip and you were third on the list, you might end up in a different position when it's all listed chronologically. And so the submaster list worked really, really well except for one thing. People who've been waiting for different size slips, usually we're going to stick and stay and make it pay, as they say, and they didn't want 20-foot and 25-foot slips. So as a result, in the same action in 2008, City Council developed a list that's subordinate to the submaster list, and it's called the lottery list. And that's a list of a maximum of 50 individuals, and that list is replenished periodically when it gets to 30 or less. It was recently replenished. And so if there's a depleted category on the master list, and let's say a 20-foot slip, right? And nobody on the submaster list wants it, it goes to the lottery list, where it's usually picked up by somebody. Well, usually is the key term here. What happened several years ago at Harbor Commission's urging, and staff honestly went along for the ride, and it was approved by council, unlike assignments from the master waiting list and the submaster waiting list, there's a lottery list assignment fee attached to accepting a slip permit offer from the lottery list. That lottery list assignment fee is equal to the transfer slip, the slip transfer fee appropriate for that size of slip when that slip is offered and accepted off the lottery list. For a 20-foot slip, it's $4,000, okay? A lot of moving parts here, but the bottom line is very few people, if any, want to pay $4,000 to get a slip off the lottery list. And so what has resulted is that we end up with these slips on our hands, these small slips. And so what we're recommending today and asking your support for is to do away with the lottery list assignment fee so we can assign those slips, continue to accommodate boating in Santa Barbara Harbor, and ultimately, if you think about it from a financial perspective, if you set aside the $4,000, we're losing the $4,000. Assigning a slip within 2 years, that's paid back, and then it's ongoing. So it's actually a financial plus. So that's the long and short of it. And in conclusion, we believe that the proposed recommendations will help accommodate slip permittees wishing to purchase replacement boats for their slips, and by eliminating the burdensome requirements for the lottery list applicants and the assignment of those slips by eliminating the application, the lottery list assignment fee, we believe will also accommodate boating, fill those slips more easily, and also with a financial net gain to the city overall. That concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Before we have questions, do we have any public comment on this? So we'll close public comment. Ms. Maria.
I don't have questions. It seems so straightforward, and your report is thorough, and the Harbor Commission approved it. And I know some of the slip holders, they're vociferous when they don't like something, and if they're not here or we haven't received any emails on this item, I would be prepared to move it forward, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I have one question. How many slips do we think would be quickly fulfilled or filled if we did this? Do we know?
Mr. Chair, we have two slips right now, a 25-foot side tie and a 20-foot regular slip that we've been holding purposely for this process to work its way through because we felt it would be disingenuous to assign those.
Right.
And then 3 months later, the slip permittee looks back and goes, wait a minute, if I'd waited 3 months, you know.
$4,000 richer, right.
Yeah, it's about, I'd say 2 to 3 a year on average.
All right. All right, fine. So we have a motion. I'll second that since I'm the only one here. And we'll take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye also. Opposed, nothing. I think we're done for the day.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.